Yep. It's setting up the stream now. All right, everybody, we'll be going in just a minute here. So welcome everyone to another Universal Citizens Media live show. I'm once again joined by David Ellis. Welcome to the show, David.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing great today. We're doing great today. We have had some fabulous callers the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to thank everyone that's come to the calls. We had an incredible set of teachers these last couple of weeks. Over these shows we've done, we've been seeing more and more people that are coming out of the woodwork, some with business problems, some with mental health issues, some with health issues itself. Here at Universal Citizens Media, we want to crack all the different subject matters. A couple weeks ago, we were busting myths, and I want to bust a myth today, and one is about parental control. So many people grow up with powerful parents who create these controls and these rules. And what are some of the myths we can bust about people breaking free of their parents' parental control scenarios?
Okay, so rule number one, your parents are to blame for your problems. That would be the first myth I'd like to blame. No. After the age of 18 to 21, you are to blame for your problems. You may choose to let your parents affect you or not affect you, but being aware that your parents have made mistakes means that you can actually correct them. So if you've been coddled, or whether you've been unnecessarily abused, you need to seek help and fix the problem. So that's myth number one. Blaming your parents all your life for things that have gone wrong in your life, and you're up in your 40s or 50s, is probably not a good idea, because you're wasting your life and you're wasting your time.
Yeah. So many people get caught in that cycle of blame, and not own their own strengths. Set their goals and create a scenario in which they can be free of these overarching rules or these concepts that limit other people from going out and even experiencing. Here, a classic example. Though alcohol has its own troubles, there are so many scenarios where people grow up seeing their parents drink frequently, and then when they get up and go to real world, they have drinking problems or drug problems, so on and so forth, because they were shown at a young age that stuff like that was all right.
So I've had cases in my office where parent actually initiated their children into alcohol. Now that's a different set of rules there, because you're actually doing something which is illegal, and you're also doing something which is damaging to society as well as your children. So in that scenario, where there is a biological dependency and the parents are actually making their children or initiating them into drinking more and more, then there is a problem there, and the parents are indeed liable. Now, there's certain people who randomly or through accident, well, nothing is an accident, but in the end, it can be, get pregnant, they become mothers and fathers. They may be cocaine addicts, they may be drug addicts. People do strange things when they're inebriated with, especially with hard drugs. This is something completely different, because you could totally ruin somebody's life by just bringing them into the world. So we want to get on that concept, okay? So in these situations, there is no easy answer. There is no easy answer. That child's life will be probably very difficult if they don't have someone who cares about them. And the funny thing about drugs, a lot of people seem to believe that if I have children, my children will become my be all and end all. No. For some people, their children are just an impediment. Some people just have children as an impediment. And they see the children as an impediment, and the children get absolutely no love. So I just wanted to break that myth for you guys out there. Sometimes drugs to a parent are more important than their own children. Okay, I know a lot of you believe in this myth that, motherly love and nurturing will kick in, and then I will just stop using drugs, or whoever it is will stop using drugs when they see this wonderful baby. It does not work that way. It's kind of like, in reality, the bad guys do not always win from the movies. In reality, people don't give up their addiction because they have children. That is a statement of fact.
It's a really, really rare case where you have someone cold turkey off it all and go all the way through it. Because it's truly courage to go through pregnancy, raising children, getting rid of your own internal issues and external issues. So I want to delve a little bit deeper into this myth, how parents at times feel they own their children. We see this in a lot of Indian cultures or West Indian cultures where they believe they own their children at many different levels. Let's bust that myth.
Owning children. Okay, so that comes from a little bit from history as well. So back in the days, and even in the Wild West in the United States, you produced your own labor force to work on the farm. You literally produced your own labor force. So you had 5 children. 5 children will help you on the farm. For those of you who remember Little House on the Prairie, am I the only one who remember this?
I remember
Little House on the Prairie? Yes, right. So you produced your own labor force. So there was a concept of ownership in there. In certain cultures, children are seen, depending on whether they're male or female, as a boon or gift, or a bit of a burden. So in certain parts of India, they try to kill girl children because they're seen as less valuable. That is a statement of fact. They try to kill them at birth, which is one of the most horrible things that I could imagine. But the girl children are seen as a burden, and this is something that has bothered me for a while, actually. They're seen as a burden because you have to get them married, and they have to be underneath some man and live their lives as some man's chattel. So that is just in the culture itself, and the culture is based on a lot of misogyny as well. For people of that culture, they generally tend to make do with that culture. One of the things that I really have been concerned with over the last 10 years or 15 years, we've seen the rise of a lot of feminist groups. So feminism is a concept. It disturbs me that they don't deal with that concept, especially. It seems that they deal with largely in North America or Europe. Well, that's easy. It's easy to deal with feminist issues and women's oppressions in these cultures. But there are cultures on earth where women are seen as less than dirt. Okay, this is true. They're not prized. This is another myth that I would like to bust. Whenever you are in a culture and it's we value our women. I've seen a lot of this propaganda. What you say and what happens in practice is something completely different. You could say, I value women, I value my culture, and my women are seen as whatever in your culture. But if you are oppressing them while you value them, then you are just an oppressor. You're not a respectful oppressor. You're just an oppressor. So
an oppressor with an opinion.
Yes, an oppressor with an opinion. There's nothing worse than this. There's nothing worse than this. And I've had many arguments with certain people in certain cultures where women are seen as it's nice to see them, don't talk too much.
Yep.
And this is something that I've actually had to deal with even when I was teaching yoga and so on. Okay, so what can I say about that? The parents support this concept. It's kind of funny. The worst supporters of women's oppression are not men; they're women.
That's right.
Women teach their children, their girl children, to be submissive. I was saying that in a show earlier on, the show where we had a lot of techno gremlins. Women teach their children to be submissive. Okay, it doesn't happen in North America. I always have this argument, even when I was in university, when I was lecturing. I found that in North America, people say, well, no, that's not actually true. Women don't teach their children this stuff. They do. They do teach their children to be submissive. Okay, it doesn't happen very often in North America, but there are other cultures that do that. And what we're having here, Jenny, we're getting feedback from someone. So if it's at all possible. Anyway, what we're having in these cultures is that these cultures are usually left to continue to oppress women, and they're hoping that years from now it'll somehow surface. I want you to understand that in certain cultures on earth, any woman who gets it into her head to be a feminist runs the risk of her personal safety. So there is that. The women teach their children to be submissive. There is a case in, I'm going to have to say this, Pakistan, for instance, where a young lady eloped with a young lover. And what happened was that the parents tricked her into coming back home, and the mother took acid and threw it on her own daughter's face. Now, that's ignorance of the highest order. We understand this. We understand this. Harming your own child because your own child didn't obey your commands or whatever else is bad enough. Scarring her for life and throwing acid on her face is just horrible. So if you want to deal with parenting, you have to look at things in a balanced way. Now, that person did that because she felt that the daughter was dishonoring the family. Okay, she was dishonoring the family. Let her live. She was dishonoring the family and she left the family. She is an adult, let her live. But in certain cultures and certain people's minds, the children are their property, their pride. Mm-hmm. And when they're dishonored, they dishonor the entire family and they must be punished. Mm-hmm. But I think that sort of thing still exists to this day, 2019. It's all over YouTube. It's all over the airwaves. And I really think that if you are going to be a credible feminist movement, I don't care if you're a feminist movement in Canada, in the US, whatever else, you guys need to address this. And I don't mean address this by making speeches about it. It's easy to have a women's demonstration in the United States. It's different to go to some other country and tell them, you know what, stop oppressing your women. But then your leaders would have to do that one day. So that's what you should be working towards. Because in the United States and in Canada and in Europe, there are laws against that. In certain cultures, yes, there are laws, they're just not enforced. So that would be my piece on the whole parenting and women's oppression concept.
So what about some of the millennials, the 14 to 34 range? What advice can you have to them if they really see oppressive parents from their cultural background? What ways can they engage their parents or unengage their parents so that they can begin to experience standing on their own 2 feet without constant issues popping up?
Well, that's a myth in itself. That's actually a myth in itself that you could change the parents' minds. Oh my gosh. We have seen, look, I have seen a number of horrible instances where the children try to educate the parents. they try to educate the parents mainly because the child sees the mother has grown and seen the mother in codependency, or the father in codependency, because it's bisymmetrical. It happens both ways, and they make a determination not to be that way. For some cultures, going against the parents and trying to educate them is seen as disrespectful. Okay, and your parents will not take your advice because we're older and we know better. And this is a myth in and of itself. This is why I say, because you're older does not mean that you're wiser.
That's right.
Wisdom comes with experience and ability. Wisdom comes with experience and the ability to absorb lessons. Okay? There is no human being on the face of this earth who exists that is better when they are in prison, whether it be the prison of your own mind or whether it be a physical prison. Okay? Ignorance is a prison. It really is. And it doesn't matter if you've been in prison for 1 year or 20 years or 40 years. Okay? You are not better off because you don't know about these newfangled ideas like women's liberation. You're not better off. You're not better off if you know you're not okay with little ideas like equality, like the rights of children. You're not a better person because of it. What I've found 9 times out of 10 with people is that they generally tend to try to approach their parents. They speak to their parents. The parents dismiss them because they don't know what they're talking about because they haven't lived long enough, assuming, let me explain something to you as an example. If you are a woman who got married at 19 in 1960 from a culture which is oppressive, which is known to be oppressive, okay? And you lived for 40, 50 years and you think you know the world, you don't. You just don't. Because you would have lived in the shadow of your husband. You would have lived in someone else's shadow. You are a supplicant. You are not an originator. You are not any of these things. And because you do not have those things coming to you, what you have is a situation where you learn almost vicariously through the experiences of another. That is not real growth in the sense, you will learn by osmosis, so to speak, but that would be it. You don't have personal experiences which are original to you. If you are a man who got married, the same thing that happens if you're a submissive sort of man. I don't know, there are too many cultures on earth where the women are superior to men, but if you have children under these circumstances, and your child comes and tells you, Mom, Dad, I've been to university, I've been around the world, I've been backpacking through Europe, I've been doing these things, and I'm telling you, some of your ideas are probably wrong, then you should listen because you might actually learn something. Or you might not. But generally speaking, Andrew, I do believe that there's a problem in our discourse nowadays. The discourse comes from whenever you're talking to someone, you should always start from the possibility you may be wrong. Is to start from the possibility that you are fallible. And if you are fallible, even as a parent, you need to start from the position that my daughter can teach me something. My son can teach me something. Okay? And some of your ideas would be flawed. There's nobody out here who has perfect ideas about the world.
Exactly. There's no one out there that has perfect ideas about the world, and it's an illusion to think you can have perfect ideals about the world. All right, so the next myth that I want to really go in and definitely bust here is about, hold on one second, is about how human beings get disconnected during political seasons. And the myth is politics and propaganda drag us in. And we're about to enter a political nightmare season where I know as a broadcaster, there's going to reach a point where there's going to be such a disgust in the over broadcasting that the propaganda is going to poison certain people and they're going to be looking for other types of material. So let's take a jump into this, how to break some of these myths of how these political things hold power over people that you have to watch. I believe in Canada, you're having a little bit of a scandal with Trudeau going on there right now too.
Okay, anybody who's lived for 18 years should know. Politicians and lawyers are the people that you should trust the least. That's a statement of fact. And I'm legally trained, so I'm saying on air to I don't know how many people right now, politicians and lawyers are the people you should trust the least. Funny enough, lawyers become politicians. Guess why? Okay, so let's start with this politics argument. There is no left and no right. There is no left and right. There is no in Canada, if you're in Canada, NDP versus whatever else. Okay? That is the illusion that you tell yourselves. Okay? Every political party has flaws. Some of them have good points of view. But if you are the kind of person who allows politics to divide you from people, then you are sick inside and you need to find something. People attach their identity to these political parties. Look, left and right is of no relevance. It really is.
They're truly illusions and delusions we add charge and polarity with to create tableside arguments.
Yeah, to create tableside arguments. So I have had a lot of this in my office, this political stuff. So families at tables, the younger generation is more left, usually in the US and Canada. The older generation is more right. And I'm like, really? This is what you talk about? Out of the millions of topics in the world, the nature of reality, you find that you're talking about the left and right. Don't get me wrong. Politics does affect everybody's life. It's a statement of fact. It affects the way you pay taxes. It affects all these things. But should it affect you to the point where you are in such a disagreement with someone else that you end up in a fight with your own family over which political viewpoint they have? That is just horrible. You're attaching your identity to a political party. Let me tell you a little bit of a secret. It doesn't matter whether they're left or they're right. Okay? It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's left or right. Certain people most politicians get into politics because they crave power. Certain professions attract people who crave power. People who crave power generally, as a rule, tend to want to fling it around and use it. So your vote to any politician, whether it be on the left or the right, you really think that politicians care about left and right? They care about the power that they can create. And usually it's power for their own self-aggrandizement, okay? They aggrandize themselves by the power of your donning your heads to them. It doesn't matter. All this political stuff does not matter. Be good to the people who are next to you. It doesn't matter whether they're left and right, and leave this politics nonsense alone. You really should. Because all politics are doing, and I want to take a pot shot at the media here while I'm still at it. Let me just say a few things here, and I want everybody in the chat, you could just drop your comments inside the chat, whether it be YouTube or whatever else. Have you noticed that the media is trying to make people hate each other because it's just easy?
It's part of fanning the flames to keep left, and right, and no middle.
right? You know that the media is trying to get people to hate each other. Let me tell you the tactics that I've been able to observe. So the media, somebody in somewhere does something wrong. The media covers it, but does not cover the resolution. So just like a theatrical play, there's no catharsis for the audience. The bad seem to be going unpunished. The good seem to be always put upon. And it depends on what your concept of bad and good is. The media right now are evil entities. They try to stoke the fires of division. I'll give you an example. They never follow up on stories where there has been a wrong done. They show you what the wrong is, but they leave it suspended. So inside your heart, you think there's so much evil in the world. You hate a certain group of people. You hate this group of people. One group of people hates another group of people because there was no follow-up from original wrong. And the media deliberately does not follow up on those stories, okay? So you have a police brutality story as an example. That officer probably got fired or disciplined, but you're never going to know about it. You're just not going to know about it because they won't follow up, right? And this is how the media tends to do this nonsense to people. And what we want to try to get you guys to understand is that this division nonsense where the media has you, and I've seen people, I have a friend, I should probably use this as an example. Every day he sits down in front of the television to get his daily dose of hatred. I see him, and when he doesn't get his daily dose of hatred, he goes to the computer and goes on YouTube to get his daily dose of hatred. And all of you do this. A lot of you do this, right? You just watch the news to see what negative stuff is happening. You probably should not do that because what you're doing is not actually helping your digestive system, your nervous system. It's destroying your health. It is destroying your health. Okay? The more you hate, the less healthy you are. It is just a statement of fact. So when you watch the news and you have stations on the right, because certain news stations go to the right and certain news stations go to the left, and they're warring with each other and so on, and you get caught up in their war, is that your war or is it their war? You have to decide these things. So let me see if I get this straight. I don't want to actually out certain stations on on this chat line, but I want to speak some truth here. If you are the kind of person who watches a particular kind of right-wing station, very popular, and you sit there and you figure out all these crazy communists and all these black people are bad people, or these immigrants are bad people. And if you are one, and by that same token, if you are on the other side of the fence and you watch a particular left-wing station that says all white people are evil, doesn't matter, they're just white people, they're evil, and all white people hate you, and certain kind of white people who come from certain kinds of states hate you, and certain kinds of regions of the country in Canada hate you. And you're collecting this dose of hatred, and you go out and the news stations have you programmed. You need to stop this nonsense. You do need to stop this nonsense. What you really should be doing is thinking your own thoughts, your own original thoughts. Okay, turn off the television, send them a message, tell them, yeah, we're not into the hate. We're not into the division. We don't care what you have to say, because it's very easy to sell hate. I could sit here on this podcast and tell you a group of people are bad people, but not all of them will be bad. It's very easy to sell hate. But if I try to sell you a supplement, for instance, that might actually help you, it just isn't as interesting as selling you some hate. And that is something to be said about the human condition. It is easy to sell people hate. and the media knows this. Okay, all right. So when political season comes around and people try to recruit you to go out onto the street to face another group somewhere, to end up in some stupid fight over something you don't actually care about with your own neighbors, please listen and remember these words. It's not worth it. Stop the stupid hate and stop the division. Live your life. It's just so much easier because you are damaging yourselves and your mind as well.
Yes. So, David, you brought us some really interesting topics. And the next myth that I want to bust here is about racism, because we're beginning to realize here in the United States, a good portion of the population on one side has some of these racist habits, techniques, or concepts where it only becomes apparent that there's a racist, some type of journey there. Let's really break into the mental concept of what racism is, and break some of the powerful myths there so people can begin to realize what's subtle racism versus standard hate.
I tend to look at racism. People think that racism is tagged to color a lot of the time. It's probably not. It's tagged to an idea in your mind. It's tagged to an idea in your mind. So if you've ever taken any racial sensitivity training, you will understand that people have certain preferences and people have fears. Okay? So let me explain what I mean by that, because you have to be very careful. That's a very multifaceted subject. If you see a 300-pound muscular man with scars on his face, okay, and sinewy muscles, right, that looks like, and his hands are crusted and stuff like that, you are going to naturally, as a human being, be frightened. Agreed?
Yep.
There's some part of you that is going to say, oh shit. Okay. That is not necessarily racism. Not that this man could be any color. He could be Chinese. He could be Chinese. He could be from any nationality. He could be Chinese. He could be African. He could be white. He could be Mongolian. But he's huge. He's big. The natural inclination inside yourself is going to be like, oh shit, this man can hurt me. And that's an animal thing. So you have to please be careful when you are making these statements about racism. So what is racism? Because most people use the word and they don't understand it. So racial prejudice is when you judge someone by the color of their skin based on stereotypes. Racism is the actual implementation of racial prejudice, whereby you actually put systems in place to keep a certain ethnic group down and allow a certain ethnic group to rise. Racism is real. We know this. Okay. Racial prejudice is a little bit difficult to distinguish because some people benefit out of negative racial stereotypes. As an example, there's certain parts of LA that you just don't go into. Everybody knows this. If you live in the United States, you know that there's certain parts of LA you don't go into unless your skin color is different. It has a particular hue to it. Because if you go in there, you are risk your own personal safety. That's a statement of fact. Okay, so some people benefit from negative racial stereotypes, and it makes it bad for the other people of the same racial hue who are not of the same persuasion. So what is racism? Racism is the systemic, and it's part of the system of keeping one racial group up. People who look a certain way go up, and people who look a certain way go down. And you want to know how you combat racism?
How?
I remember a movie that I saw. I believe it was, go ahead. I remember a movie, and I remember a movie that I saw. It was called Higher Learning. I can't remember what the name was. And it was a black actor who asked his professor, anything I do, the white people seem to get ahead. And his professor made the analogy, if you were in a race with white people and they were running ahead of you, what would you do? And the black student who was an athlete said, well, I would run faster. And there's your answer right there, run faster. Don't slow down and come out of the race just because the system is against you. Run faster, get better.
Work harder, find more courage, keep away from the racist people as much as you can. The reason I brought this question up is we're entering this politically charged season where racism is going to be a common conversation topic for quite some time. And I want to touch on the subtleties of hate versus racism. Because there are those that are racist but don't hate to the point of violence. It's because politics has poisoned their perspective. When person goes into hate in which takes action, which creates a psychosis.
Okay. There are different flavors of hate. I want to tell the audience that hate is not just one big emotion. Indignation is when you hate someone because something has been done to you. So that's a kind of hate. Pure hatred is when you look at someone and their existence is a problem for you. As in their existence. Why do you exist? And I need people to understand the different inflections of hate. So for instance, if I look at I don't know how many people in the audience know what a centipede looks like. Let's use something that everybody knows.
Yep.
A cockroach, for instance. A lot of people look at a cockroach and think, why do you exist? That would be hatred and fear. But notice that hatred usually comes with fear. Like, why do you exist? That would be hatred. So if you look at another human being in World War II, during the Nazi era, we saw the real, pure, unadulterated, like undiluted hatred, where the German population, quite a few of them, looked at the Jews and thought, why do y'all exist? We need to eradicate y'all. That is hate. Indignation. Indignation comes when it is that you have been hard done by, and you look at everybody who looks a certain way, like certain black people, when they look at white people, I hate you because of what has been done to your ancestors or whatever else. Indignation. The different levels of hate as well. So how does hate translate to racism is the next question we need to answer. You may hate someone, but you may hate them if you don't hate them for a particular reason, apart from the fact that their skin color is a certain way, then what exactly are you hating? You're hating their existence. That is hate. You have a problem. That is racist hate. If that individual hasn't done anything to you, then you have a problem. I have seen examples of racism here in Canada, and I'll explain what I mean to you. I usually frequent a particular Walmart as an example. I saw an older Indian lady who was hobbling into the store. And I say hobbling because she's older and she can't move as fast. And there was this guy behind her, young. I'm going to put him at probably mid-30s. And he just looked at her with such disgust in his face. And I looked at him, right, while he was looking at this little Indian lady. And I'm like, how is it possible that you could be so hateful? right? Because you're going to be her age once. One day you will get there. That's the first thing. And that woman could have been your mother. You don't know, in another situation. But what he's looking at her is he's looking at her as an immigrant. She probably doesn't speak English very well. She's in his way, and she just doesn't look like she belongs there. And I looked into his eyes and I saw hatred, and and he doesn't understand that that makes you an evil person.
In that moment,
makes you an evil person. When you hate people, yes.
In that moment, they are evil.
Right? And you are practicing something that you don't understand, which can lead there, because that moment, that singular moment, will lead to other moments like that. Okay?
Okay. So now I want to up it one more level. Road rage. Let's break the mist about what road rage is and isn't, and how do we help people to stop it if it becomes blatantly obvious?
Oh, road rage. Road rage, whenever you have road rage, it's usually coming off of something else. Road rage is not something that just happens on its own. You're already tensed. So somebody cuts you off in traffic, and then you figure, oh, okay. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and then you're like, whatever you have inside of yourself is expressed to the individual. We call it spontaneous flare-up of hatred. Okay, you have a spontaneous flare-up of hatred. And it's actually quite interesting to look at the dynamics of road rage. Let's break this down anatomically speaking. You are driving along, you want to get home. Okay? And somebody is cutting you off or whatever else. You already have it built up. The road rage, the explosion, is the accumulation of it. And if you just observe yourself with this explosion that is happening inside of you, you will realize that it's really not the person who cut you off that's the issue. You want to make that person pay for whatever else is going on with you. Okay? Before you explode in any situation, and I'm talking to the general audience, before you explode, before you do something you regret, take stock of yourself first of all. The person who cut you off may have cut you off for any number of reasons. Okay? They may have cut you off for any number of reasons. It may not be that they're just being an ass. They might be just didn't see, or they may have not seen you or whatever else. Before you explode, please understand that you are not perfect and you're not a perfect driver yourself. Take stock of whether you're exploding on that person because of what they did, or whether you're exploding on that person because you had a bad day at work, because you're stuck in traffic, because of all these things. You have to take stock of yourself, okay? And I would like everybody to try to get that part done. All right, before you explode in any way, shape, or form. It might be on your spouse, or it doesn't have to be road rage. Let's take a couple of minutes a couple of seconds really, to say, am I exploding right now because of what this person has done? Or am I exploding because I'm really, really stressed out?
And then there are those people that have these road rage incidents because racism and advanced internal judgments are a part of their everyday life. We see a lot of road rage incidents against people of different ethnicities, or against old people that don't drive the way that they want, the ones driving the way that they want. And one more topic I want to address with road rage, everyone's got it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to share a story. When I was living in San Jose and I was doing limo driving there, I drive to work with a limo and sometimes with my regular car, but at the same time, every time. And you got to know the cars that you were around, like, you know, hey, I've seen that before. On a regular basis, I would see this Asian lady putting her makeup on at 80 miles an hour, 4 or 5 times a week. and cutting people off. And to the point, you could tell people were waiting for this particular person to show up, slam on their gas or their brakes so her makeup would get all moved up. Or honk at her right as she's trying to put eyeliner on. Yet little did this person realize the danger and damage she was doing to everyone else by every day putting on her makeup and her eyeliner while she's driving at 80 miles an hour. And this created a lot of situation, not just because she was an Asian driver, it's because of the choices she made. So the myth here to break is, how do we stop this type of indignation when you see people doing stuff like this on a really regular basis, or the person that's quadruple parked with their Porsche?
I think if you live in a big city and you know you're going to experience these kinds of people, you should probably, when you enter your car, take a very deep breath in and create space in your mind and in your general environment. Take your time to get home. You are expected home in one piece. Take your time, be at peace. Because traffic is like the water, it's like water that's rushing against you. The more you resist, the harder it becomes. Okay? Stop entering traffic with an attitude of resistance. I must get home. I must get past these people. I must get there. You are doing yourself more harm than good. You will eventually get annoyed with someone because nobody's gonna, it's kind of like walking through Walmart. Have you ever been through Walmart on a Saturday?
Yes. I call them the visiting of the Walmartians.
Last Saturday.
Come in.
Right. Have you ever visited Walmart with the little, the trolleys and stuff? Mm-hmm. And everybody's trying to get stuff off the rack, and then there'll be someone who puts the trolley in the middle of the aisle.
Yep.
And they're gonna go to pick up the stuff. They're gonna pick up the stuff off the shelf and slowly put it down. And their kid is running around as well, huh? The kid is running around and they're screaming and stuff, and the person has developed what we call child deafness. Right?
Child deafness. Yes.
Yes.
Selective hearing.
But everybody else can hear your child screaming, but you can't. So you're just busy just shopping, you're taking the stuff off the shelf, and your trolley is in the middle of the aisle and it's skewed towards the left. Good. So let me explain to you. When you enter Walmart, the same as you enter traffic, you have to create some sort of space in your mind that you're not getting out of there easily, that everybody inside there is a potential trolley aisle blocker. Okay? You have to take this into consideration. You have to take this into consideration when it is that you are entering these kinds of spaces, especially the highway. Everybody in there is potentially going to stop you from getting where you're going. Accept it. Become emotionless in the sense that you're not attached to getting home. Because if you do not do that, you're going to find that your resistance, and I must get the rice, I must get this thing. Your resistance is what is making you more agitated. Would you like to know what I do when I go to Walmart, Andrew?
What do you do?
I take my Bluetooth earphones, I put them on my ears. Okay? Do I have my Bluetooth headphones here? I take my Bluetooth headphones, I put them on my ears, and I have my iPod, I play some Enya or something along those lines, and I'm spacing out. I am spacing out. By that same time, I'm keeping awareness, and I'm talking to the people out there who are Serial aisle blockers.
Serial aisle blockers. Yep.
No, I don't. Right. Serial aisle blockers. For those of you who like to put your basket or your trolleys at 30 degrees, okay? When I shop with awareness behind me, in front of me, and at the sides. Okay, if I'm taking something off of the rack and I need to read the label because I'm a nutritionist, I'm going to read it in a place where it doesn't constrict other users of that supermarket. So I'm just saying that you have to be aware of how much of a inconvenience you'll be giving people, but you also have to be you need to go in there with your mind expanded. So get your Bluetooth headphones. I don't know if you're listening to Beethoven or Schubert or whatever, or Chopin. You put it on your ears and you go with no expectation. Don't go into Walmart on a Saturday morning expecting to get home in half an hour. It's not going to happen. You know it's not going to happen. Don't go in there with this kind of resistance, is what my advice is. Don't go into traffic with this kind of idea that you must get home at a certain time. Learn to put your classical music on, your Enya, or whatever makes you feel relaxed. And enjoy the journey, not the destination. Yeah.
Exactly. The journey, not the destination. So I want to finish the story. I would talk about the Asian lady that would put her makeup on while we were driving to work every morning. And it just so happens some many months later, after probably seeing this lady 50 or 60 times, literally almost causing accidents and just not really caring, I happened to go with my limo to their office they were, and there she was. And I had to bite my tongue and bite my tongue and bite my tongue and bite my tongue. And by the end of the big, long business meeting, the stuff, she happened to be just on the one side away from the limo. And I came up to her, I go, I see you every morning coming into work, and I see you put on your makeup every morning. And she stopped and she was like dead stared at me. And I go, there's been a couple times you almost cut me off, and a couple times you almost cut somebody else off. I would really appreciate it if you stopped trying to put your makeup on your car in the morning anymore. And I was calm. This wasn't road rage. It was just an opportunity in which the universe got to do it. And the very next day, who did I see driving in the morning putting her makeup on? Same person. Okay. This created charge and polarity in me. So what I did from that moment on is whenever I would see this lady, like a variety of other people, I would get up behind her and put my horn on as loud as I can, waiting for her to do something up by her eye. Is that vengeance, David? What is that journey when you encounter someone that has such little care for the rest of the people around them?
Oh, you mean like the serial aisle blockers? You mean
Yes.
those?
Yes.
Is it vengeance? Let me explain. Let me explain a trend in downtown Miami to you, Andrew.
Okay.
For those of us who've been in downtown Miami, if you've ever been there,
many times, yeah,
you do know that whenever somebody makes an error in traffic, everyone blares at that person.
Exactly. Communal horning.
Blares at that person. Yes, everyone blares at that person. I found that so amazing. And the reason why I found it, because it's like everybody blares at that person for two reasons. It notifies the cops exactly who's causing the problem immediately. So like somebody, like a taxi driver or somebody does something stupid, and everybody who passes, lines and lines of traffic, blares at that person so that the police, you're doing something wrong, and that person gets busted. So that's the first reason that they do it. It's hilarious. Okay. The second reason why they do it is to let the person know that you're doing something wrong. And it feels uncomfortable when dozens of cars are blaring at you. So there is something, I don't want to, there's something to be gained from that, because there's some people who are sociopaths and they really don't care about people. There's certain people who are sociopaths, they don't care about people. So I would have to say there is something to be gained from that. Okay. Is it vengeance? You know, a lot of people don't know the difference between revenge and retribution, right?
Ah, that's what we're getting to core of, retribution versus vengeance.
What is the difference? Does anybody in the chat know?
So everyone, let's actually engage the chat here. Everyone that's in the YouTube, Facebook, or Zoom chat, let's actually, what is the difference between vengeance and retribution? Come on, let's go ahead and get some audience interaction here. What is the difference between vengeance and retribution?
We can actually let them call in too, actually.
Yeah, we're going to take our caller.
Their hands and give.
So also people that have not done anything, exercise your willpower to raise your hand. Click on the participants button and you'll get an option to be able to raise your hand. And that's how we select what callers we're going to do. So everyone, get your jazzercise in digital hands. Raise, lowered, raise, lowered. Let's figure it out. Who can figure out? We have one person, two people that have raised their hands. Wow. And everyone else is still trying to figure out how to get past their Walmart shopper to raise their hand. All right, we had a third person. He just rammed right through the cart. That's usually what I do is I just tap their cart. Dink, dink.
They should have little horns on the carts. You know that, right?
Oh, God, you can imagine what it'd be like if there were horns inside Walmart. They should be self-driving carts.
Yeah, they should. What is the difference between revenge and retribution, everyone? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Ha, stab. That's vengeance.
Yeah. So let's see what we have in the chat, Andrew. We have Sylvia. Sylvia says, revenge is when you hurt in some way. That's a question. Sylvia, yeah, but retribution, you could have hurt someone in some way as well. Angela Miller says, strong words, punishment inflicted on someone. Okay, I'm not sure if you want that for revenge or retribution, because we want a difference between the two. Vengeance, Jackie and Santo says, vengeance equals reckless triggered reaction. Shelley Yu says, action and the reaction. I assume that's what you wanted to write there. And Angela Miller says, resolution trolley. Angela, that's hilarious, right? And Jackie and Santos said negotiated outcome. Okay, so let's look at revenge and retribution. Revenge. In both instances, a wrong has been done or perceived wrong has been done. Okay? Revenge is when you take it upon yourself to inflict a punishment on someone, some sort of punitive measure on someone for the perceived wrong that that's been done to you. Revenge is a sort of subjective thing. So for instance, it can change based on who the person is. Like Andrew, as an example, a serial aisle blocker with a trolley is in front of you. For some people, it will be, let me honk the horn at them. For another person, it might be, I might have to take your right arm.
Right.
Okay. Revenge is subjective a lot of the time. I need your right arm because you blocked the aisle. Really a good thing to practice because it harms the person taking the revenge as well as the person who the revenge is taken upon. Okay? So revenge is very subjective. It can change from person to person. Can you imagine, Andrew, if you're in Walmart again? We're going to go with the Walmart scenario because Walmart is my trauma, really, right? You're in Walmart and your name is Jeffrey Dahmer, okay? And somebody has blocked the aisle.
I'll be looking for ground meat.
Your name is Jeffrey Dahmer and somebody's blocked the aisle. Revenge to Jeffrey Dahmer or I don't know, who else can we use?
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy.
Or serial killer is totally different than revenge from a normal. Ted Bundy is totally different from revenge from a normal person. So you guys need to ask yourselves, is revenge a good thing to practice? Because there's no such thing, retribution. Retribution is a little bit different because the punishment that comes does not necessarily have to come from the person who the wrong was done to. So I just want the audience to get this idea because the revenge that comes or the punishment that comes in a retribution scenario does not necessarily have to come from the person. So Ted Bundy in the supermarket and the aisle block is there and he's thinking, yeah, I need to cut some part of you off. No, for another person, it might be something as simple as retribution can be something as simple as going to the manager and telling the manager that this person is a hazard inside Walmart. Now, is that retribution? Is that revenge? What is it?
Tomato, it's still perspective.
Yeah, it's still perspective. But the difference between retribution is that there's a thought process behind it. Okay? Now, retribution could be a lot worse than revenge. Okay?
That's right.
You could ask a few people in history about that. Retribution could be a lot worse than revenge. So, revenge might be, in the instance, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, the person has cheated on you or whatever else. Okay? And you might slap them, revenge. You might say, I'm going out with Tom tonight, revenge. That's a reaction. Retribution tends to be a little bit more thought out. Okay? Like, what's Lorena Bobbitt?
Yep, a little bit more thought out.
Lorena Bobbitt, you remember that? It tends to be a little bit more thought out and planned. So is capital punishment revenge or retribution is my next question.
Capital punishment is retribution because it's technically falling under the law through perspective.
Okay. So how is this different from somebody's hurt, somebody needs to pay, which is revenge?
The law blurs the perspective, which allows conclusions to become judgments and judgments to become finalities, which makes in one mind retribution versus revenge for the finality of the choice.
Well, some people tend to think that the two are kind of mixed inside the law because depending on where you are in the world, capital punishment can be a kind of revenge. So let me ask you something. Under Sharia law, somebody steals something in the market and they get their hands cut off. Tell me, retribution or revenge?
Revenge.
Why?
The extremity of the violence that is done back. But it's also a political statement too. It's also a political political statement too. Because you're going to end up with
a political statement.
If you steal, you get your hands cut off. The law is greater than your physical body. You end up with a bunch of people with no hands, one eye, and no tongues. Third of your population.
Agreed for black. You see, this is a very interesting discussion because a lot of people practice either retaliation or revenge.
And then there are some that...
A lot of people either practice retaliation or revenge, and they don't...
Right. And there are those that can't tell the difference between retaliation and revenge. They're all one and the same for them, like many road ragers.
Okay. All right. So my question is, because of, I believe Shelley, you said I walk away. Shelley, is that always effective? Shelley, are you in the audience right now? Shelley?
There's a bit of delay in
Shelley
here.
in the audience?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay, you wanna, Shelley, you wanna get in on this discussion? We're gonna do something different.
Shelly, you are unmuted.
Okay.
Hi, Shelley. Where are you calling from today?
Salem, New Hampshire.
Welcome to the show. David, go ahead.
So, Shelley, how does walking away help your situation in the situation of being targeted?
Well, I used to get road rage on people yielding, like they won't yield to get on the highway. They just ram into you. And I find that really irritating. So after a while, I just decided to just send love and light to them and just, who knows? We don't know if their mother was dying or somebody was dying or anything. So I try to put myself into their position.
Excellent.
And if I'm at crazy Walmart, I walk away from people because I can't take the drama.
Okay. So that's a very good attitude to have, first of all. Let me say that. But for the sake of our discussion, I'm going to play the devil's advocate with you, Shelley. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, good. So first question. Does walking away all the time make anybody learn anything?
It gives me patience, so yes. I don't know about the people blocking the hallway, but they don't seem to care about you anyways. They just want to get their groceries.
Okay, so the next question I have to ask is a question of, have you ever heard the statement, evil flourishes or evil flourishes when good people fail to act? Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that, but I don't really believe in evil. I believe that's a man-made word.
Okay. All right. But you believe that there are negative consequences and negative actions, correct?
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I agree with everything that you're saying, but for the sake of argument, all right, we're going to have this kind of discussion because I'm hoping that the audience can learn from it.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the best to walk away. But do you remember, do you know what the Nuremberg trials were?
I think so.
Okay, the Nuremberg trials in World War II was an indictment really of the entire German population. Would you like to know why? Because the Nazis in World War II, they were only, on average about 10 to 16% of the population, but they made a whole nation, right, kill 6 million people. Would you like to know why?
Money,
because
power,
they just turned
fear.
They turned the blind eye. So this is why they turned the blind eye when all the evil was being done because it suited them, right? So I want to say this to who are light workers and people who share this philosophy. You have to be very careful with the philosophy, yeah? Shelley, first of all, I want to say that you're absolutely right in the way you handle things. But I also want to caution you here, okay?
Yeah.
I also want to caution you here because you see, if you approach this from this particular perspective, it enables people to continue being disrespectful to other people. And I know that doesn't have anything to do with you. But I want you to also understand. I want you to also that generally speaking, people become enabled when people don't actually act. So when I made the example of the people in Miami who blare their horns at the person doing the traffic offense, it's because they want that behavior to stop. And usually speaking, it stops because the cops are alerted.
Okay, but wait, let me interrupt you for 1 second. But if you do all that, isn't that sort of shaming the person that's fucked up in the middle of the road and they don't know where they are? Isn't that a big sense of shame?
Agreed. And as I said, I agree with you at 100%. You have a very good point there because you don't know what the circumstances are, right?
Yeah,
now, you have a very good point. You see, I'm so happy we brought Shelley on. Now we can have a discussion. So,
okay,
yes,
wait, I got
you don't know what the
person about Walmart. I got to do one more thing about Walmart. Now,
go ahead.
You turn yourself off of Walmart. You put your earphones on and you listen to Enya and you fly down the aisles. But when you watch a father trying to put their kid's pants on, and he's absolutely freaking out, now do you interject? I do. I tell the man to back away from their kid and take a breath because it's just overwhelming for them. Sometimes they just don't know what to do.
I noticed you chose a father instead of a mother.
No. I watched this the other day when I was in Walmart. And I actually went up to the man and I said, please just back away from your kid before you start smashing it. I was really worried for the kid because, he was a kid. He was doing his little thing and the guy wanted to button his pants or whatever. I don't even know. But I'm like, mister, just get away from your kid for a second and just take a breath because you can beat up your children and it's not their fault. They're just kids.
Understood. And how did he take that?
He could see him take a sigh. A little breath.
He needed somebody to tell him that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, because you get overwhelmed. And Walmart is extremely overwhelming.
You think?
I know.
So David will have to do a show live from Walmart from the cart. Tales from the cart, tales from the trolley.
Oh my God, that would be so funny. Yes, that would be really good. I would love that. I would watch that.
No. We're gonna have to send somebody else. Okay, so you have made some very actually good points there, Shelley, because you don't know the circumstance. But let me ask you a question. If you take your analysis and you take it on a nationwide level, when you're dealing with stuff like capital punishment and so on, and people go through a court system, and it's the lawyer's job, if you're a prosecutor, to bury the facts because you really want this person to go to an electric chamber or lethal injection or someone or whatever else. It's the lawyer's job, the prosecutor's job to bury the facts. Okay? So let's say in the case, I'll give you an example.
Is that karma? Would that be karma? Because it's between the lawyer and the person that was accused as a crime? Maybe
I'm not actually
they're in a past life or something.
Agreed. But I'm just talking about this. I'm not approaching it from that angle. I'm approaching it from the angle. That's how I always approach it.
Sorry.
I understand. But I'm just saying, based on what you're saying with regard to people, and you're not understanding what it is that they're going through, whatever else, which is a very good point you have made. On a worldwide level, would capital punishment be correct or not correct, in your opinion?
Okay, in my opinion, if the person is completely guilty and there's no doubt and he's confessed or she's confessed, then I would say yes. But if there's too much doubt, then I would say no.
Okay, Grant.
Who are we to judge these people? It's none of our business, really.
Okay, but you do realize that taking somebody's life is in and of itself a final decision, right?
Yep, but that's the same as, oh, I don't even want to go into that subject. So, okay, yes. Because I was going to go to the
What subject is that?
where people think the fetus is alive and not alive and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is that's a sliding scale. It's a sliding scale between what is actually happening to the person who is the offender, what's happening in his head. There have been many people who have been put to death or whatever else based on the concept that they have done this horrible crime called murder. But when you actually understand why it is that they had to kill people, I remember a very important case. Who was the woman who was abused by her husband for many, 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 many years? She was beaten, abused, and so on. And she killed him eventually with a gun.
And she went to jail.
Yeah, no, she was executed, right?
Yeah.
She was executed, right? My point is, how does one, you see, the reason why she was executed is she had a very piss poor defense attorney. Life and death hangs in the balance. So the prosecutor, all they had to do, and I have a legal background myself, all the prosecutor had to do was hide the fact that she was abused for so many years as much as possible to get this woman executed. Now, is that a right thing? Is it a wrong thing? We don't necessarily know, but we know for certain that she had, what she did was a statement of self-defense. Years later, they're looking at this woman that they executed. They can't bring her back. So there is that aspect. So there's
but they can help the next person that it happens to. They can do something better for the people. She could be like the example.
Okay, so my question to you is it okay if one person dies?
No, it's not.
It shouldn't happen to one person. It should.
I don't know. I don't know that answer because I'm not in court. I don't know. He says no, but I don't know if that's true because I think that's how the world rolls right now.
The world works like a Walmart trolley. It sits there until you push it. It gets left in an aisle until somebody else pushes it out of the way.
Right on. It's true.
All right, Andrew, we need to get on to the callers. Shelley, you've been a lot of fun, Shelley. Really you have.
You guys are really fun. I'm so glad you guys are doing these. These are really good. Oh, and I do have to complain about your empath one, but that will be another time.
Okay.
Because you guys pissed me off the other day.
Okay, we're gonna bring you back. Okay.
All right.
All right, we're gonna bring you back, Shelley.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
I want to answer some callers now, Andrew. Let's get to it.
So, Jen, let's. Who's got their hand up? Nancy's had her hand up for a long time. Let's bring Nancy on, Jen.
Okay. I'm looking for Nancy here. Okay, Nancy, you are unmuted.
Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Where are you calling from today?
Los Angeles, California.
Welcome to the show. So what did you have to say about Walmart shopping carts and charge and polarity?
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to those things. I don't really want to bother with that type of things in my life right now. Because I'm going through, like, I guess, a transformation, trying to better myself. So.
Okay. So what questions did you have today?
I'm more about myself and what I'm going through. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going through right now because it seems like I've had kind of like a rough year this year, and then I've been trying to get myself out of it. Yeah.
Okay. So are these financial issues, emotional issues? What's the scenario?
Emotional issues. Because I started receiving, I guess, I don't know if it's abilities or anything. I started receiving information and things like that. And then I was told to go to a seminar. Well, not a seminar, but a public talk. And I went there, and I was supposed to talk to someone there, but I didn't go up to that person. So a couple of days later, I went to his seminar. And then because of that seminar, I had an emotional breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And
what kind of emotional breakdown?
I just felt like really horrible afterwards. Like I was feeling very like happy and high, full of love, and felt like loving energy around me. And then after that, I had like, because of having to remember the past, because I guess I blocked that out. And then at the seminar, they had me remember the past. And then I guess it made me remember all the negative things. And then I had an emotional breakdown.
Okay. So, David, I want to bring you in here and help separate what's the emotional breakdown versus getting a taste of success here. Because I think one part of it is wanting to have a taste of success, and the emotional breakdown is kind of linked into everything here.
Okay, so Shelley, tell me about the past, first of all. Tell me, Nancy, about
my past isn't that bad now that I realize that, but as a child, I was hit by my mom, and also also like emotionally abused and physically abused.
In what way?
In what way? She would always hit me for things that, like not eating all my food or things like that. But now I realize that it wasn't as bad as how some people are abused. So I don't know. I've been trying
Nancy, abuse is a matter of perception. For some people who get beaten quite a lot, it's like Tuesday. For others who get hit, you can't judge yourself based on others' experiences. Yeah. So obviously the abuse traumatized you. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it traumatized you to the point where you're breaking down right now. So how often was this abuse?
I don't know. I don't remember a lot of it because I guess I blocked a lot of it out, but maybe a couple times a week.
A couple times a week. This is a regular occurrence?
I kind of blocked a lot of it out, but I'm more traumatized by what happened during the seminar.
Okay, what happened during the seminar? Let's talk about that.
We had to go through exercise to try to release that anger or resentment you had for that person who did that to you. And I did do that, but I guess I didn't go through the process correctly because I started remembering all the traumas that I had forgotten. And then I did it with someone else to say as a surrogate, as the person, my mother, who did that to me, and I was supposed to say thank you to that person.
What? Okay, tell me.
And then I was afraid of him because I guess he told me before that he'll kick me out because I guess I didn't explain myself clearly to the facilitator, and he thought I lied to him. And so I was afraid of him, but I did my thing with my exercise with him. And then I don't know what happened, but it seemed like I went in a trance and I started doing mudras. sign language, and someone told me to speak, and I started speaking in a different language that I don't even know what language it was. And I thought they were afraid of me. And then I think I had an emotional breakdown because of that, because I thought I did something wrong or bad because they made what I perceived what happened, that they thought I did something wrong or bad. And I had an emotional breakdown afterwards.
Nancy, what was the purpose of the seminar exactly? What was?
It was to break through your perceptions of something negative that happened in your life, or someone that did something to you. That was.
Was the seminar run by a light worker, a hypnotherapist?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It's just someone that's research on things like this. I think he's done it for over 30 years.
He's done it for over 30 years and had, okay.
What was the name of the retreat? There's the seminar.
Hello?
Hello? What was the name of the retreat or seminar?
The Breakthrough Experience.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
I'm unfamiliar with that as well. Okay, so Nancy, okay,
Yes.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
The first thing is first, I don't think you did anything incorrect on your part. Second thing is second, I would probably ask you and caution you here about judging yourself in terms of what you perceive to be horrible or not, okay? If you perceive something to be horrible, it is horrible to you, and no one can tell you anything different than that. May I make a suggestion to you off the top of my head, because I deal with very practical suggestions?
Yes. Okay.
Whatever happened to you at that seminar is something that you might need help for. I'm not familiar with the techniques. They obviously partnered you off in a sort of dyad sort of interaction, reenactment, okay? This kind of technique can be useful, but did you go through a consultation before they put you through this technique?
I didn't. No.
There was no consultation?
No.
So you were just put into this sort of pairing off and conversational topic. Am I correct?
They just had us remember what happened, and then to own that trait within them that you thought was bad. I don't remember, because I guess I tried to block out that experience. And then there was a facilitator helping me. And then also, since I couldn't remember a lot of the past, because I guess I blocked it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually feeling good and positive about myself. So I guess after that, because I had to remember negative things and the trauma that I went through, it just broke me, I guess.
How many people were at this seminar?
There was a lot. I'm not quite sure. Over 30, I guess. 20 or over 20 or 30.
How many facilitators were at the seminar?
4 maybe. I'm not sure. I kind of want to block that memory out, so I can't really tell you for certain how many people.
Okay. I think I may have a bit of a problem with the way the seminar was conducted. I wasn't there, so I can't make a judgment off the top of my head. I think they were using techniques for emotional release. But when you do that, you need to have a consultation with someone first
Mhm.
And I'm saying this to all of you in the chat room who are light workers as well. When you are dealing with emotional release with your clients, consult with them first before you start throwing techniques at them. So Nancy, first of all, I want to say that I'm really sorry that this happened to you. And I'm apologizing for even the people at the seminar. Did you get an apology as well?
No,
There was no apology.
no. I called them to help me, and I guess they told me that they would help me, but I said, oh, it's okay. Whenever you're free, you can help me, but no one called me afterwards. So I thought they just want to get rid of me, so.
Why do you think that way?
I guess, I don't know, I just guess I grew up like that, being unwanted, feeling unwanted.
I understand. Okay, so first of all, let me say something, Nancy, to you. Once again, I want to apologize on behalf of every practitioner out there for the way you were treated. This is not the protocol for the way we treat people. We just don't treat people like this. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I want to apologize on behalf of the seminar people, whether they feel that they need to apologize or not. I don't know who these people are. I'm unfamiliar with them, but I want to apologize for them as well. Okay. Now, Nancy, I want to deal with you. You have been traumatized now, apparently twice, and I want you to think very carefully.
Yes.
Okay. Because Nancy, once again, I do not believe that you are a bad person, or I don't believe you are somebody that should feel unwanted or whatever else. You called in and you're very brave and you're speaking to me on an open chat line. Nancy, you've been traumatized and you probably need to get some help, okay? Like professional help. I guarantee you at 100% that not every light worker is going to treat you with such discord, okay? They're not going to treat you like this.
Okay.
Because I believe that you were treated probably very callously, and this is probably what's hurting you inside more than anything else. Apart from the fact that you've been traumatized before, I would like you probably to consider giving the practitioners another chance and finding people who actually care and are not just doing this for business. Okay? There are people out there who do this because they really want to help people. I have no idea what the story is with regard to the seminar you went through, but I do know that a lot of people who come into the light worker because there's money in this industry or there's perceived money in this industry do it generally because they want to make money. I assume you paid a lot for the seminar. Am I correct?
Yes, I did.
I don't want to get into your business, but how much money roughly did you pay? You don't need to give me a definite figure. Are we talking hundreds?
Almost 2,000.
Oh my God.
You should actually ask for your money back. I did a little research on them. They're a Hay House supported person. Obviously something went terribly, terribly wrong there. You should actually ask for your money back.
Oh, okay. I should ask for. But do you know what I did? Because I started speaking in a different language and I started doing mudras and sign language. I don't know why.
That happens. You're not the only one that does that. There's a couple people in the chat room that have had that happen. Stuff like that comes out when you do these breakthrough experiences and you had some inexperienced people who were unable to deal with what was coming up there.
Oh, so that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it comes out in a code. David, you've seen strange things come out of people. That's just the way it's got to come out.
Okay, Nancy, I wanted to tell you something right now.
Yeah.
I've been a counselor for very many years. I've been a hypnotherapist for many years. I've done a lot of healing work on the clinical side and on the administrative side. What you are describing, you are not the only one that this has happened to. A lot of people get frightened by it. And those that don't get frightened by it have hardened their hearts to the point where they think, oh, this person is just pretending. So a lot of people don't understand what an abreaction is. But generally speaking, it can come out and manifest itself in many ways. Now, there's an innate intelligence in people, which is Let me explain something to you, Nancy. I think I understand what happened to you. Are you interested in hearing this?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So there are three different parts of your mind. I'm going to explain this to you in a very clinical way so that you understand. The
Okay.
part of your mind that you call Nancy is what Freud and Jung referred to as the conscious or the ego, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's a part underneath your mind where your memories and your emotions and your body's unconscious processes reside, like your heartbeat and stuff, are controlled by your subconscious for the most part, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the third part of your mind, the deepest level of your mind, is linked into everyone else's mind. Do you understand that? It's a universal sort of mind.
Yes.
Right? So what we want to, sometimes what happens is that people do an exercise. It happens to people when they're sleeping. And some people are just born that way. They seem to be plugged into that sort of universal mind, so to speak. Do you understand?
Yes.
And what happens is that information can come flooding in really quickly. Okay?
Okay.
And when that comes flooding in, it's usually a very frightening experience. Extremely frightening.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not only a frightening experience, it's also the kind of experience that overrides your subconscious and overrides the part of your personality that you're using to talk to me right now, which is Nancy. Okay?
Yes.
When that happens, you are no longer Nancy. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You are something else.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have information coming in, you're going to have all different kinds of things that you would not normally do happen. Understood?
Yes.
So my statement to you and my suggestion to you, you had an emotional release. This person was, the purpose of the seminar was probably trying to take you and make you sublimate. And you may have accidentally tripped across what we call a universal connection. And it's like being on another plane of consciousness, okay?
Okay.
When information comes through, it comes through in all different sorts of ways. I have hypnotized people, Nancy,
Mm-hmm.
and had people in my chair
Yes.
who spoke fluent Latin, and they have never been to Catholic school or any of the stuff. Okay, but I have. Okay.
Yes.
So I've had people in my chair who have done all sorts of things and related things to me that they could not possibly have known. Okay, this is part of the territory of when you become a counselor. And if you are a really trained counselor, you learn to see these things and accept these things. And people who accidentally trip across this kind of universal mind, they need counseling. They do not need you to treat them badly. And I'm really, really, really absolutely sorry that you were treated badly. I really am. Because what should have happened is that counselor, because he tried to shame you, may have done some inadvertently would have done some damage to you. And I would urge you, and I would I really appeal to you to try to see someone else who understands this, who's more professional, who probably had a lot more experience with these things, who can guide you. Because honestly speaking, what happened to you is actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. The fact that you can actually break, for want of a better word, the irony is the name of the seminar was Breakthrough, right?
Yes.
You have a breakthrough and it's like, wow, okay. I think they wanted you to break through to your subconscious level alone, which is nice and neat. And a lot of therapists like to work in there, okay? And a lot of people like to work in the memories and the emotions and so on. There are higher things than how you feel. And you have inadvertently broken through to that thing, okay? And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I assure you it's not a bad thing. Because
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
I actually was speaking that strange language before and doing hand motions before I went to the a seminar. I started doing that after I meditated, and I guess I was channeling something, and I spoke in that strange language, and then I started doing hand movements and I guess sign language before going to that seminar.
Understood. Nancy, that's not a bad thing. May I make a suggestion? I suggest you develop that thing. Meditate more. Break through more. Don't do it less. Do it more.
Record yourself saying that language and go back and listen and discern.
I actually can say it right now. I can speak it right now. Too.
Go ahead.
Na yakana isha kanyaka yastokononia nanyaka tiatkanai yakadikosha kanyaka tiatkanata.
Andrew, do you recognize that?
Yes.
I notice I asked you that.
Yes, Vietnamese.
It's Vietnamese?
Yep. Dialect of Vietnamese.
Oh, okay.
David?
I asked you specifically if you recognize that because, anyway, Nancy, that's not a bad thing.
Nope.
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Let me make a suggestion to you, Nancy.
Yes.
Instead of allowing the shame of what this guy did or whatever to rule what is happening to you, my suggestion to you, for the trauma aspect, because you still have unhealed trauma that you should work out. My suggestion to you is to meditate. And I want you to understand that it doesn't make you a freak. It doesn't make you strange. It doesn't make any of these things. This is a no judgment show, but then you know this already. It doesn't make you strange. Develop that thing. I would just caution you because not everybody is accepting. Not everybody wants to hear what you're going through. And not everybody wants to be, how should I say, involved in that thing, involved in higher consciousness of any kind. My suggestion to you is that you develop that aspect of yourself. Find a therapist who is understanding and non-judgmental.
Do you know how I could find a therapist that won't bring me back into that trauma state? Because I was afraid to go to anyone because I didn't want to really live that trauma again.
Understood. The trauma in and of itself, most therapists will try to diffuse it, okay? Sometimes when you are dealing with people, a lot of people will try to make you face your demons, so to speak, okay? There is a way you need to find yourself a Gestalt therapist, because there's a way of removing you from the trauma when you are examining it, okay? You need somebody who is skilled in doing that. Gestalt therapy is very effective. Give me a second. Jenny, could you just, just go into the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association or the International Association of Counselors and Therapists? Because then you can do a search for a Gestalt therapist in your area, because a lot of your trauma is surrounded around your parents. It's around your parents. So you might want to find yourself a Gestalt therapist and somebody who you can speak to about everything. Okay?
Okay.
That's
do you think I went to an energy healer, and I guess she removed like some of the, I don't know. I also did hypnosis too, and while I was under hypnosis, I said that the energy healer limited me. So I don't know if what that meant, like limited me, like.
Can I ask you a few questions, Nancy?
Yes.
Are you highly suggestible? Do you go into trance very quickly?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. You're very highly suggestible. The next question I have to ask you is, do you practice any esoteric practices? Do you do yoga, for instance?
No, I don't do yoga.
But you know the mudras. Interesting. Okay.
It just came out like it spontaneously. I just spontaneously do it at that seminar. So now I just looked it up and saw like different mudras, but I don't actually like know it.
Okay. So my suggestion is that you take control over what's happening to you.
Okay.
I take control. So meditate more.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that the stuff that's happened to you may be frightening, but the quickest way out of fear is to walk towards the door that says fear, because the closer you get to it, you'll realize that the sign also says exit. Okay? Don't run away from what's happening to you. Okay? Because a lot of people live their lives in density. They don't meditate, they don't introspect. Okay? And I say density, and I don't mean dense as in they're dumb. I mean density in the sense that they don't explore the aspects of themselves which they can't see. Okay? So don't be one of those people. You have an in. You have a ticket in. A lot of people would like the experiences that you have, but they can't. I met a Swami while I was in Boulder. I'm in Canada now, just in case you guys are wondering, right? I met a Swami who had been practicing yoga and bhakti yoga for years, who would kill to have the experiences that you have, okay? He didn't have any experiences, and he's been practicing this for years. So Nancy, it's not a bad thing. You've been gifted, dear. So use it and take control of it, okay?
And don't worry about monetizing it right away.
Okay.
Just enjoy your experiential journey with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Really discern yourself, record yourself, videotape yourself, and be confident when you trigger it to go on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you so much for calling in, Nancy. You've been a wonderful teacher for a lot of people. You really inspired a lot of people in the chat room. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Nancy.
David, we've had some really fun times busting myths, getting into racism, Walmart shopping carts. So any last words that you want to have for before we end the show, David?
Yes, for everyone listening to the show. I know that you guys, especially in North America, are doing some sort of political, they're going through political. In Canada, we are as well. Please, before you get your daily dose of hate from that TV, remember what we said. Remember what we said, okay? There's no left and right. There is no division. Like, please, just chill out with your neighbors, right? And get back to that time when everybody was just okay with each other. And okay, some people will not be okay with you, right? And some people will cut you off in traffic as well, okay? So put on the Enya, put on the Schubert, and so on. And look at your Walmart shoppers, your fellow Walmart shoppers, including the guy who blocked the aisle, and say, it's okay, because I'm not in any hurry to go anywhere. Take your time.
Wonderful. And I want to quote a comedian, Bill Hicks. The world is like a ride in an amusement park. And when you choose to go on it, you think it's real because of how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down, round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's brightly colored and very loud. And it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real or is it just a ride? And the other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid ever, because it's just a ride. Just a ride, everyone. That's what we are on, a ride of an experience. And when you choose through your perception to allow the experience to be positive, negative, indifferent, just enjoy the ride. Put your Walmart shopping cart at a 45-degree angle everywhere you go. All right, everybody. It has been a wonderful ride. Thanks a lot, everyone. And we'll be back this coming Thursday, 11 to 1 Pacific time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.